Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Alex in Wonderland. We're back. We are so back. And this evening, whoa. I hope you're all well. Me, I'm very well. Thanks for asking. And I am well. I cannot complain. But look, it's been a while. We're going to try something this evening. We're going to do a book review. We are going to try a book review. I've never done a book review. I have no idea how to go about it. And I don't know if I'm intelligent enough to discuss the book at hand. But I did read it, genuinely. The book that we are talking about, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Alright, so for those of you that have watched my prior videos, and I don't expect you to have done that, I mentioned that I was reading this book, and I finished it last week. I believe it was last week, I'm sure it was. Like I said, I've never done a book review. Let's give it a go. Okay, so I remember being a young man. My uncle, top man, my uncle kept banging on about this book. Didn't listen to a word he says or said. Never really do. But as I've mentioned, I've recently got back into reading, and I thought, let's give it a go because I needed something to read. So, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a great book. Alright, let's just get that out there. It is a great read, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading that book. The book basically centers around a father, his son, who is called Chris, and the father also has two friends who go on the journey. Essentially they ride motorcycles and they go on a bit of a journey around America, or some part of America. Again, I'm kind of showing my ignorance, but they go on a road trip. So there's the dad, who we don't know his name. There's Chris, his son, and there's John and Sylvia, which are two friends of the father, the main character, whose point of view the book's from. But they kind of teeter off. Is that a spoiler? I don't know. They're not throughout the whole story. Apologies if that's a spoiler. I don't think it is. Alright, but look. So yeah, the book centers around the father and son on their journey throughout America, or whichever part of America they're riding through on motorcycles. But throughout the book, the author kind of translates his feelings towards a lot of things and his journey toward defining quality, as well as other, I suppose, philosophical and spiritual dilemmas and endeavours of human beings. I need to read it again because it really does go into depth around a lot of things that went way over my head. I'm not going to try and explain it to you in any intelligent manner because I just don't have the capability to do that. What I do have the capability in doing is telling you that it's an incredible book. The story is great. It goes off a bit. It goes a bit weird. And we're introduced to a character. I won't say too much because I suppose this is spoilers, but this isn't a spoiler in itself. We're introduced to a character named Phaedrus, who makes an appearance very relatively early on. Spooked the hell out of me when he did. It was great. It really got me. And throughout the book, the main character references Phaedrus, and as we go, we learn more about him. And the story kind of shifts between the journey, the actual physical journey on the bikes throughout whichever part of America they're driving through. Again, apologies, I can't, the coast or whatever, I don't know, I can't remember. Read the book. But essentially, it then kind of delves into the main character's faults, which are obviously the author's faults. He obviously has some gripes with certain things about how we define quality in life, I suppose. How is it measured? How do we gauge it? What kind of makes up something that's defined as being quality? And then it kind of it talks about technology, and it talks about all different things. Again, I can't remember, but very well written. Again, I'm no authority on the matter, but it's perfectly done in a sense that you've got the story, and it's kind of the main character and his son Chris. And look, I don't have kids, but I think, it kind of touches upon the difficulties of father-son relationships, I suppose, when they're strained, when kids are going through a certain age, and kind of, there's a bit of tension, but there's also really wholesome moments, and more and more gets revealed. And again, kind of, as you read, you'll start putting two and two together, or you will at least make your own assumptions about what's going on and what's kind of being relayed, and certain characters or character. And obviously I made my own judgments, and as it went I kind of got the gist. But essentially, I mean, yeah, it was great. It really was. And I'm not just saying this. For instance, I've just opened the book here, and it says, this is great, this will help me out massively. The first horn of Phaedrus's dilemma was, if quality exists in the object, why can't scientific instruments detect it? And we have all these sort of kind of questions and gripes, and it's great. The way that even kind of the descriptive of the nature and all the different towns and places they go through, really, for me at least, my imagination was popping off. I thought it was a great description of the journey that they went on, the actual journey of what they saw. And they kind of stay at hotels and visit certain restaurants and meet locals. But as the story goes, it gets kind of stranger and stranger, and certain things are, notioned at, and it all gets a bit trippy and woo. But it's great. It's actually great. It's a really good book, and at times I didn't want to put it down, and I kind of was consistent in reading it every day. And if you go and read up on the book, it's kind of a cult classic, or it was a cultural phenomenon at the time, and it still is. It's a really good book. I don't know, like I said, I'm not the authority on what books are good, which books are good and which are not. Again, I don't know what else to say, because it does kind of really pierce into like certain questions, philosophical, and I know it's called Zen spiritual as well. It talks about Aristotle and Plato, I believe, at the end, and questions about rhetoric, and the character works for higher education universities, and he's battling certain members of faculty, and you can just see that the author had real solid thoughts, and he conveyed them in such a way through this character. And the book perfectly juxtaposes or kind of sticks to the main body of the actual journey that the father and the son are going through, but then he'll go off on a tangent and he'll start rambling. But it's great, it's perfectly done so that no one side is longer than the other, you know, just as he's chucking all these thoughts at you about quality and how do we define it and what does it mean today, and he starts dissecting it, and this is how I think quality should be like deducted, and this is how blah blah blah, and then just, you know, he doesn't go on for too long, then it switches back into the main kind of story, and you go back to actually, right, we're on the motorway now and we're cutting through the mountains and blah blah blah. But then certain things are going on with Phaedrus, this character that you learn more and more about as the story progresses. I don't know if me mentioning Phaedrus is a spoiler, and I'm kind of concerned now, so I will put potential spoilers in the title. But yeah, it really got me, the book at the end, and then me actually going on and reading about the author, you'll kind of find out, and it's all a bit mad, it's crazy, but great book, easy read but very challenging read, but it's more-ish. I wanted to keep reading more and more, and like I said, I think personally it's done in such a clever way whereby he chucks a lot of the kind of philosophical and spiritual side of things, but the author, Robert M. Persig, he's very intelligent, and then he pulls it back and he knows when enough is enough, and he doesn't ramble on too much, and then he goes back into the main story, but it all ties together, and it all, like I said, I'm rambling. It's a great book. Read it. Just read it. That's all you've got to do. I'm sure there's audiobooks out there. You know, New York Times says, profoundly important, full of insights into our most perplexing contemporary dilemmas. Undoubtedly so. And I think the book was kind of published in like the 70s or the 60s, and you know, it still holds weight today, about, because I think he eases, if I remember correctly, at the start of the book, we're eased in to kind of, he starts talking about technology and how some people are kind of open to technology, but the main character's two friends, John and Sylvia, kind of refuse to touch anything that's too technical. He uses the example of like a dripping tap, and the kind of main character in this is like, well, my two friends John and Sylvia, they refuse to kind of even mess about with a dripping, leaking tap and try and fix it themselves. They'll automatically outsource that job to like a professional. And he kind of talks about the like two different types of people there that kind of shun anything, you know, will rather pay out money to kind of outsource a job that they could probably learn how to do themselves, I think. But then he kind of carries on, you know. Observer, Mr. Persig has written a work of great, perhaps urgent importance. Read this book. Time. Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance is an unforgettable trip. And it is, like I said, it gets weird, but it's so clever, and it really leaves you wanting more. Time's literary supplement has to say that the book is disturbing, deeply moving, full of insights. This is a wonderful book, and it is. And forget even the kind of insights. I mean, obviously the insights make up at least half of it, but even just the way it's written between the father and the son, and how it explores their relationship, and sometimes the main character isn't sure kind of how to deal with his son, and he talks about the space between them. I don't have kids, but I've seen these kind of dynamics, I suppose. Then again, I am a son, right? So the dynamics between like a dad and a young teenager, and a lack of what to kind of talk about, I suppose, and certain dilemmas and humps that they find, you know, trying to find common ground and what to talk about, but then really nice wholesome moments as they're on their journey. And yeah, I mean, look, I hope this has been a decent review. I hope me mentioning Phaedrus isn't a spoiler, but I don't think it is, because I don't know. I mean, he is like a really big character, and it kind of talks about in the introduction to the 25th anniversary edition, you know, straight away. Maybe skip any introductions on these books, because it is kind of... But Phaedrus isn't a spoiler. He's a character, and he pops up really soon, really early in the book, and you learn a lot about him. But yeah, if you're struggling for something to read, I highly suggest this. I mean, look, again, I'm not going to try and pretend that I can break it down in this type of video, you know, classic and romantic points of view, and it goes off, man. It's really smart book, and I just think, you know, I will read it again. But even if you don't grasp all the kind of technical stuff at the start, or just on your first read through, you know, the insights and the perplexing contemporary dilemmas, that's fine, because you don't need to get it on a first go, and you can always revisit it. But the story is beautiful, the characters are really good. I really felt I really wanted to know what happened to the main character, the son, John and Sylvia, Phaedrus, and kind of what is the heck is going on with my guy Phaedrus. He's absolutely nuts, but he's the GOAT. And yeah, it's beautiful. Like I said, you don't need to be some sort of intellectual to read it. You know, he breaks it down, and he does it in a way, his character's very stubborn and quite sarky and quite, you know, he's quite quick, and you can tell he's going insane in a sense of trying to kind of answer these questions that he's had all his life about what is quality, how do we define it, you know, is quality something that's prevalent in today's societies and stuff like that. And yeah, it's very quick-witted, and you can feel the main character, obviously the author must have been feeling this way for him to kind of convey his thoughts through the main character. But you know, he's like fixated on getting the answers to the questions he wants. But yeah, look, I'm going to upload this 18 minutes. Well, I've been recording for 18 minutes. I'll upload this, guys. It's been Alex in Wonderland. I'll try and maybe do a better review, a more concise one. I hope I haven't spoiled anything. I don't think me mentioning one of the main characters is a spoiler. But just give it a go, really. If you've been dwindling and you're not too sure, and you've been sitting on the fence but you've heard about it, give it a go. I am thoroughly glad I did. I really enjoyed that book, and I genuinely mean that, and I'm not just saying that to give me a reason to upload a video. Guys, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. It was popping, 20 million copies sold. It's been Alex in Wonderland. I sometimes feel like Phaedrus. Phaedrus is my GOAT. Guys, read it. Peace.